Hello my users, and welcome to a small video about a very powerful and useful method of lighting and rendering scenes and objects within Maya, within 3ds Max, within Blender, within games, within in all sorts of applications. Now the reason I'm here first and not in Maya is I want to just introduce you to this website, which is very useful, HDRI Haven. And it is a website which allows us to download lots of free HDRI images. Now I'm going to tell you what a HDRI image is in a bit. See here we've got 200 plus HDRIs. They're all completely free. You can donate if you want to. We can go up to 16K. They're all unclipped, 100% free and supported by us. And these are just all the different HDRIs we can get. So let's go to studios. Studios are my favorite ones. So what a HDRI image is an image that you would have around a scene. And you can kind of see what's going on here in the images. So this is the image we are given. And these are basically reflector balls, or kind of like spheres that kind of show us the reflection of the immediate environment. We've got a glass, a standard Lambert, a chrome, and a coloured ball. You can see here that we can download 1K, 2K, 4K, 8K, and 16K. Okay, so that's very cool. Now what these are is these are images that are used within PBR rendering, or PBR, well, physical based rendering. Now we will have, or we are going to basically have a long discussion about what PBR rendering is and how it's used and what it means and what all the different elements of it are. So I won't be going into that inside the video. However, what we will be using a lot within within PBR is a HDRI. Now what a HDRI is a million different points of light. You might be able to think about it. So within, let's go to something that's a little bit more colourful. So within this light, there we go. Within this image here, we've got these very intense blues from the sky. We've got these intense greens from the field, and we've got these which would be grey black, but now because they're lit by the sun, they're at orange, orange and browny kind of tones. Now, what these are, if you kind of try and think about it, is each one of the pixels on here is a light. Now, I don't mean a light which we can go in and adjust and change, because there is actually very little adjustability within HDRI images. Basically, what it's doing is it's taking the intensity of the pixel on our basic black to white scale, and it's actually projecting that color and that intensity onto the surrounding objects. Now, there's a lot of science behind this, and even I, after using these for many years, still struggle to kind of like comprehend and kind of like describe what the science is. But the best way I can think about it is each one of these pixels is projecting a light photon forward, and that photon has a color associated with it. So if we have an object inside a scene, we're going to have a lot of blue from the top, we're going to have some indications of green around the sides, and we're going to have this brown reflection from below. Now the great thing about this is because they are going off basically pixels throwing light forward, it does often mean that the ground is darker than the sky, which gives us quite a realistic, quite a realistic representation of our object or what we're trying to render. It'll all make complete sense when we're actually in Maya using these, but I just wanted to point out HDRI Haven to you guys because it's incredibly useful, and 99% of the things you see on TV that are very graphically intense, or kind of like, you know, obviously CG but very incredibly good CG, we use these. You can see here there's some examples of HDRI images being used. So if we just let this come through, I'm going to just point one out to you. There we go. So here we've got HDRI image on the outside, which is this sky with the green. Here we've got the blues and the greys, and that's all reflected onto this chrome surface. And it's not just about realism as well. We can actually use these on stylistic characters or assets or anything like that. This isn't just about hyperrealism. This is a realistic lighting. Okay, so I'm going to download a couple of HDRIs, and then I'm going to jump into Maya, and then I'm going to show you how to actually set them up and the power of HDRI images. Okay, see you in a second. Now before I actually jump into Maya, I just want to go into Photoshop, and I've opened up each one of these HDR images into Photoshop just to show you what they look like. Now obviously we're looking at a very distorted image, not distorted in the sense that it's hard to read, but we basically unfolded what would be a reflection on a sphere. So I've just downloaded 4 different images with some varying lights. So here we've got a very intense dark kind of morning scene maybe. We've got here which looks like a bit of a dusky scene, a lot of pinks involved. We've got a really nice kind of mellow interior scene here, and then we've got a nice strong architectural scene here. Each one of them carrying a lot of different colours, a lot of different feels, but on the actual file types themselves, what we can see is they're not JPEGs, they're not PNGs, they actually are HDR. They actually are HDR files. So this is what we actually need. We can't use JPEGs, we can't use PNGs, we can't use anything like that. So this is why this website's really nice, because it'll give you HDR images. Now I've chosen to download 2K version of these just because I like working at a 2K range. You can download 1K. Like I said, it goes all the way up to 16K, 16,000 pixels. That's a lot of pixels. Don't necessarily need to do that. That's for like movies sort of level of stuff. Cool. So this is what the images are going to look like. So let's jump into Maya. And I've already kind of got a scene set up. So it's a very, very simple scene. I've got 5 spheres, I've got a surface, and I've got a light currently in the scene. So this is a simple area light, Maya standard light. I've got a camera set up just pointing in the right position, and I've got my render here that I've done in Arnold. So I've just clicked render in Arnold, and we've got this. So I've got a standard Lambert ball on the far left. This is actually a glass ball. Okay, but because we're not using a Maya, we're not using an Arnold light, doesn't actually work. In the middle we've got a chrome ball. Then we've got basically a flesh sphere for some surface scattering, and then we've got a standard shiny green ball. Now you can see here that we're getting a reflection on this chrome ball in the center, and we're even getting a reflection on the green ball and what would be the glass ball, and we are getting reflections on the skin and the Lambert ball. However, because these are more matte based, they don't actually reflect the image as well. One of the things we will be discussing about PBR rendering is everything has a shiny value. There is nothing in the world besides maybe that weird black material that doesn't have a slight shininess to it. And I'm talking, this is maybe going into the science side of things. Okay, so this is my scene that I've got set up, and it looks okay. You can see even with the Maya standard light, it's, you know, quite nice. It's at 1K square, so we're getting, you know, alright quality. We've got some nice shadows in here, though they are very black. There is some bounce light off the ground. You can see there we've got the reflection in there. So all in all, not a bad scene. No, but what if we want to have extra realism in there? What if we want to actually get some real light in there? We've got a white light currently. This has no color value to it. It's a unidirectional light, so it's only facing in this direction, hitting the surface, and then bouncing away. I want to get some nice, believable realism in here. I want to get these looking like they are actually in a scene. So we're actually going to move away from using Maya standard lights that we get inside Create and Lights. We're actually not going to use these at all. We're going to use the Arnold lights, because this is a function that can only really be done in Arnold within Maya. Obviously there are different rendering softwares that do this, and you can even get stuff inside game engines which do this. But for this, I'm just going to use the Maya. I'm going to use Arnold. So I'm actually going to get rid of this light altogether. This is going away. So if I now run a render on my Arnold render, we're just going to get a black scene, because there's no light within the scene to render. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to Arnold. I'm going to drop that down when I want to do something. There we go. Oh, it's actually rendering nothing at the minute, so let's just stop this render. There we go. So I'm going to Arnold, and I'm going to go to Lights, and then I'm going to go to Sky Dome. We have got physical sky, which will create a fairly believable sky for us. You know, it works, but it's not what we want. You can see here we've got a sphere. This is projecting some light. You can see here. This is commonly what you'll see in like a game engine. You'll get a standard skybox, but we don't want that. So we're going to get rid of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Arnold and then go to Sky Dome. Light like that. Boom. And then we get this. So if we hit render now, we get a white render. So what we've created here is a surface for us to actually put our HDR image on, but currently it's white. What you can see is the light is much nicer. The light's very, very believable. We're getting just a very, very ambient white light, so there's no direct shadows, but the way the light's actually hitting the surface and then bouncing back onto the actual object itself is very, very believable, which is great. It's what we want. So let me just pause this now. So I'm just pausing the render. Now, this sky dome I've got selected here is very big. We want it to be very big. I'm going to go to my attributes editor, and these are the attributes for the sky dome, and we've got your standard sort of settings for anything like this. Some of them might be very confusing. But the one I really want to look for first is I don't want to look for intensity. I don't want to change anything. All this is fine. I want to change the color, because the color is essentially going to be the texture that's been applied to this object. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to attach my HDRI image. And there you go. You can see I've connected my image. We've got the environment around it, like that. And if I run my render now, there we go. So that is using all the light around the scene. All these pixels, like I said before, all these pixels around the scene are all now acting like lights. They're actually throwing light onto the surface, and it's giving us this really nice lighting. It's very, very believable. One thing that's really kind of fascinating about this, let's start the render, is the fact that because there's no real strong light anywhere, we are getting no very, very strong directional light. It's an ambient light. It's very much what light would act like inside a room like this. There's a little bit of ambient occlusion near the bottom, but other than that, it's looking really, really nice. Let's make it a bit bigger. There we go. So here we've got the reflection, we've got everything working. I'm not sure why my glass is not working. Maybe they've got a setting that hasn't been turned on. But you can see here we've got some really nice. So start that render there. It's really, really nice. So I'm actually going to turn down my render settings on this a little bit because it's taking a long time to render. I did actually change the render settings from 3 to 5 and then the rest from 2 to 4. So I'm actually going to put this back down to 3 and the others back down to 2. So it's going to make my rendering a bit quicker, though a bit grainier. Which is fine because I'm not looking for a perfect render at the minute. I'm just looking for, is it going to look okay? Okay. And I'm going to just start to rotate around. Let's move this light here to where the balls are. So you can see here I've actually placed the balls, placed this very, very intense light section behind the balls. You can see that we're actually getting reflection. We're actually getting a light emission from here. You can see where the light, hopefully you can see where the light is actually projecting from here, and we are actually getting some very subtle shadows from that area, which is great. So that's a very ambient, very soft environment. What I'm going to do now is change to something that's a little bit more striking. We're going to go for one of the outdoor scenes, and we're going to see how that actually affects our shadows. So I can see here that we've actually got this new light source in. This is kind of like this deserty scene. You can see there's a massive change within the line here. We've actually got these very, very strong shadows. We've got a lot of intense light on one side and a lot of blue on the other. We've got some nice bounce lighting underneath. And one thing that I really love about HDRI images is with the stronger lights, you've actually got a bounce light in there. You've got a bounce shadow because there is light coming from the opposite direction. We've obviously got the strong light coming in from the left, but then from the right, we've got some blues, we've got some yellows, a little bit of green coming in. So that's actually affecting the shadow inside here, which is brilliant. I'm just going to change the HDRI image one more time to something that's a little bit more. Let's go for this. So this is going to give us a very, very strong shadow, I believe. Boom. So this is a very intense light. Excuse me, it's rendering a little bit. We're getting these strong shadows underneath because our light is basically our environment is being lit from the very top here. This strong light. So we're getting much more of a clinical light, but again, very, very believable. So that's HDR images, and that's what HDR images. Like I said, it's very, very quick. I wasn't planning on doing this video, but I thought while I'm messing around with some HDR images, I can actually show you what they do. Now, my advice is to play with them. You know, get a sense of how they work. Set something up like this. Set up a scene with just some spheres or some cubes. Bring in some of your models and see how they look. Bring in models that have had a full texture job done on them, and then see how the HDRI works inside there. Now, one thing I think is really amazing about this, and it's good to know if you want to cheat, and I use the word cheat very loosely. Obviously, we can't necessarily take something like this HDRI setup into stuff like Sketchfab or into wherever. You know, we might be limited. However, remember that we're still dealing with an Arnold scene. We're still dealing with light and photons being projected onto a surface which has been UV'd and is being basically shown to us as an image, as a texture. I can actually take these separate objects that have all been UV'd and actually take that texture off. So I've got this yellowish light coming in from the top, which is then giving me this yellow quality to my grey surface, and then this ball here is reflecting all the surface around it. So what I've done is, say if I want to take all the shadow detail and the light detail off this plane as a texture, if I go to Arnold Utilities, Render Selection to Texture, or click this button here, the little checkerboard inside a yellow box, select my output, select my resolution. So let's do this as, because I've done a version of this already, it's very, very grainy. So I'm going to do this as 1024. I'm going to set my camera samples to AA, render this. This might take a little bit of time. So I've now done that for the plane and the center chrome sphere. So if I come into Photoshop, you can see I've done two here, which are lower res versions, very, very grainy, but you can see what happens. You can see here that we've got, oops, sweet picture, we've got basically the reflection of the chrome sphere, just like a HDRI image. And we've got the same one here, so we've got the reflection of the shadows from the lights above. We've got the general tone of the lights and general tone of the scene. And I have done higher res versions, so let's just grab those if I can find them. So there we go, we've got this really beautiful reflection on a texture. So what I can do now is I can go back into Maya, make up a new scene. I'll basically delete everything and then just apply this image to a sphere, and then this image to a ground plane, and then we're going to get a pretty good version of what we're seeing in our render here. So that's HDRI inside Maya. We will be going through this in class. It'll be a lot more in depth. We'll actually be exploring different uses, different methods, and all these different things. But within Maya, it's as simple as that to set up. using HDRI, Haven, to grab your images, testing them out. It's a great way to render stuff for your portfolios as well. That you don't necessarily have to rely on Sketchfab. Sketchfab absolutely does have its benefits. Obviously, you've got something that you can spin around and look at the wireframe. But if you're trying to do something that is purely 2D based and you want the best rendering you can, this is a way to get it. I love HDRI images, and I love Arnold Render and what you can do with it. And you can see here I've got my final render here of just a nice sunset beach scene. The light's very nice and soft. So yeah, that's HDRI image. That's how we use them. I'd love for you guys to just explore the uses and just really have a play with them. Thank you.